I'm going to try to create the black market for podcasts.
What do you mean?
Just go into you go into an alleyway. There's like a mysterious stall set up.
Hey, you want to learn something about World War II?
I got everything here. I got true crime.
Yeah.
I got recipes.
Takes. You want them? I got them. Got the hottest takes.
You want politics? Only American politics.
Why are you from Brooklyn?
That's where hustlers are, aren't they?
Yeah, sure.
It's the hustler capital of the world.
I'm still in character talking to this podcast salesman.
Oh, okay. So you're still Tom Lang.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've wandered into an alleyway and now I'm very afraid.
Anyway, Tom Lang, welcome to Reanimates.
Hello, thank you.
I'm glad you're here for this one because I know that you're a man of science.
I am a man of science.
That's what I like to call you.
And from what we know about science, from watching Jeffrey Combs movies, it is an evil and dark art.
It is. It always goes awry.
Yeah.
Especially in the case of this. The reason I wanted to get you on for this one because it was for an episode of the show Perversions of Science. Mm-hmm. It says science right in the title, right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perversions of Science.
It's from 1997, a one-season sci-fi show that was a spin-off from Tales from the Crypt, and you can already tell as you're watching it how Tales from the Cryptian it is.
Now, for someone who's never seen Tales of the Crypt, I'm assuming that is the mix of twist endings and the occasional boob.
Oh yes. Lots of boobs. And obviously the wraparound of a spooky host who makes puns at the start.
I love a good pun.
Yes. Except instead of the Crypt Keeper in all of his leathery, decrepit glory, our host is a sexy robot who we go into her tit to get the story.
It's unnecessarily sexy. This is the most uncomfortable framing mechanism I've ever seen for anything. Where it's like, oh, let's enter a world of magic and science, and it's inside my boob. That's where I keep the stories. The boob opens, you literally go into the boob.
Yeah. It's unnecessary because I would have thought that a robot would keep all of their data, maybe in what should be the head, I suppose.
Well, the head is just for heat sinking. See, the boob is where you keep the data.
Oh, okay. So the whole sort of torso, thorax area, that's where the storage is.
Yeah, which makes sense because if you're going to be a robot, like obviously you've built something that looks like a person, but you don't want to put the important brain stuff in the head. That's the worst place for it. Because the head, very vulnerable, you just cut it off. You put it in the torso, in the boob. Because a robot doesn't need to lactate, Lisa. But it does need to store data and deliver pithy science fiction stories.
So where do you put the HDMI ports then? Hey?
Well, this is the 90s, so I guess we're going VGA ports.
Oh, okay. Yeah, VGA for vagina port. Yeah.
It's right there.
So yeah, the opening theme is it's very, as you mentioned when we were watching it, Men in Black. Style. It sort of opens with, suburban home, and then
It's actually pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, we go into like a popcorn kernel, and then we go through, I don't know, various sciencey looking
like another universe
things
inside the popcorn.
Yes.
It's cool.
And I think the reason that we both thought of Men in Black immediately is because the theme is by Danny Elfman, who also did the theme for Men in Black. And it was also the first thing I thought when I heard this theme was, this sounds like it's from a Barry Sonnenfeld film. And Danny Elfman has also done work from Barry Sonnenfeld films. So it's all linking up together. Yeah, like a racy Crypt Keeper. She introduces us to the show, with these sort of sex puns, and she's sort of lazing on this. What would you call it? Like a gurney?
It's like a horrible operating theatre.
Yeah, it doesn't look like
this isn't sexy.
Doesn't look like a lab. It looks like a morgue.
It's a back alley chop shop.
Yeah. So this is what Chrome, who's our sex robot, sounds like.
Before we get started, I have a question. You do have protection, don't you? I mean, anything is better than nothing. Whips, chains, handcuffs.
And this is based on a comic book, isn't it?
Apparently this is from a 1951 weird fantasy, which I guess was one of those comic books they churn out with like little science fiction stories.
Yeah, it definitely, as we find out, has the vibe of that style.
Yeah.
So we meet Jeffrey Combs immediately. He's our main character. He is mixing serums, as is so often the case.
Yeah,
with
we know
Jeffrey
he's
Combs.
a scientist because he's just invented the color green by mixing blue and yellow.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you really need to do to get a medical degree.
We worked on that one for a long time.
It's also definitely not clear that he is a scientist because...
No, actually, he's not a scientist.
No,
I think he's just a psycho.
Yeah, he's a mad scientist in the sense of he just mixes stuff together and kills people.
Yeah, and the chemistry thing never comes up again. He's just a murderer.
Yeah.
Apparently he's just a straight-up murderer, and he sometimes does that with a sciencey vibe.
Yeah, he's talking to what we think is the camera, but turns out to be his latest victim. He's talking about the impurities of humanity, how he plans to eradicate those impurities by burning this woman's eyes out.
With acid or something.
With something.
He doesn't seem to have, like... He talks a big talk about how, he's gonna cleanse the impurities, and then he just kind of kills her with the acid. All right, sure, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... I mean, it is technically sciencey, but it's not dignified, you know?
Yeah, and it's a bit weird, because at the start there, you're like, he's a mad scientist, he's trying to work on some stuff. This is like a classic science fiction. It's a classic Jeffrey Combs thing, where he's dabbling in science, but he goes too far. But then it never comes up again, and it's pretty clear that he's just a serial killer with weird ideas, and I think he just used that as an excuse to kill this woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he gets arrested by, I don't know, the cops or some detective guys in what turns out pretty quickly to be like the near future or an alternate world or something where there's not really any crime, but for some reason they've got this pretty well-equipped like homicide squad that busts into this creepy warehouse and takes him down with a dart gun.
Yeah, it's not really clear. The team that do eventually capture Jeffrey Combs' character... It's not really clear what their job is because they're led by Dr. Nordoff, who's played by David Warner, who Jeffrey Combs fans will know quite well. I think they've done 5 or 6 films together. So other people might know him from The Omen, In the Mouth of Madness, Titanic. Okay. But he has done heaps of Jeffrey Combs stuff. I think 5 or 6 films at this point. Necronomicon, especially, he's great in that. But him and whatever this team he has, they storm into this horrible warehouse and they find some bodies in barrels.
Yeah, it's pretty
sort
gross.
of like skin in fluids.
Your standard serial killer stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's also old hat now.
Yeah. Yawn, another body in another barrel.
Oh, I've seen it all before, buddy.
Wait a minute, then where are my pickles?
in graves all over the city. A little clue as to how this episode ends, which, I mean, look, you can take what you want from this quote, but something he says to the woman whose eyes he burns out before he walks away is, "Consider yourself a stepping stone in my struggle."
Oh, don't give it away, Lisa.
No,
Don't give it away.
I mean, what's possibly clear about that?
Because I had no idea where this was going when I watched it. And you know there's going to be a twist, because this is the kind of story where there's always a twist.
Of course.
At this point, you know, we had no idea.
So Nordoff is discussing Jeffrey Combs' character and says that he's a rarity because he kills people. So in whatever this either alternate universe is or alternate future, it is become apparent that people don't kill people anymore.
They've eliminated most crimes, or at least the really nasty ones. And he does this little creepy speech, and he's gonna fix Jeffrey Combs using science. Which doesn't turn out to be very impressive science. Yeah,
the justice system is very unclear in this alternate universe because even though there's no capital punishment and there's no murder, people are still arrested for very small misdemeanor crimes. One of the only other prisoners we meet is obviously, it's clearly just a trans person who is locked up for some sort of misdemeanor. I think they say something about jacking off, maybe?
I think they're just doing some general, like, smack talk. But they're in the prison cell right across the road from Jeffrey Combs, the worst serial killer the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
So for all we know, these are the only 2 criminals in the world.
All of these crimes are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, when Jeffrey Combs' character is eventually put in front of the judge, the list of crimes he has are, again, very small misdemeanors that you would have thought we would have eradicated by then.
I mean, I reckon it's probably easier to eradicate violent murder than it is to eradicate jaywalking.
Well, it's not the fact that you would eradicate jaywalking, it's the fact that it would no longer be a crime.
Right.
That you would not even consider it when handing down a sentence.
I mean, now you're just reforming the justice system
why would you
reforming the criminals.
Why would you want to do that?
But, I mean, it's pretty clear that this is not a perfect world. We're not living in a utopia here. It's grimy as hell. No one's invented decent overhead lighting. The whole place is wall-to-wall grotty warehouses and weird shitty it's got a real Brazil vibe, I think.
Yeah, very dark, very grim, dirty.
Yeah. We can only assume that they've eliminated murder through some, Clockwork Orange kind of way. I don't think they've done it by making the world a better place.
So Jeffrey Combs is given a prison number, 50557. I'm just going to keep calling him Jeffrey Combs because that's clunky to say.
Yeah.
So Nordoff and Jeffrey Combs meet. For some reason, Jeffrey Combs says this.
Oh, stop. You're making the tip of my dick cry, don't you?
Don't know why.
I think that's just another the whole vibe of this show has that very ooh, are you a 12-year-old who's being a bit naughty and you've snuck out to watch TV after 10 p.m. You're gonna see a boob and then you're gonna hear some swears and then you can tell your kids at school about it, but it's actually not that racy.
He said a naughty word.
Yeah. And before the show, there's the disclaimer where it's the following show contains sexy, cool stuff. Make sure your parents aren't in the room. But anybody who's over the age of about 18 is going to watch this and be like, it's kind of trite.
Yeah. Well, 97, I mean, that was still the period when, you were just flicking around channels hoping to come across a boob. We all stayed up late putting on SBS hoping for a movie that was accidentally very sexy. Jeffrey Combs also says that killing relieves the pressure. Yeah. Here, he points to his head.
So he's clearly got some real brain issues that make him he's a compulsive killer.
Yes.
This is all we know about this character is he likes getting hands-on and murdering.
He is. He's unrepentantly murderous, and Nordoff wants to basically rehab him before he's put in front of a judge. I guess
he's got 2 days before he gets sentenced.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that Clockwork Orange thing of wanting to show your rehab process is good, but for your own benefit as opposed to the benefit of the rehab process. You want to make your process that you invented look good.
Yeah, that's fair. That's the scientific field. You've got to publish or perish.
When we cut back to Jeffrey Combs later, he's cutting his knuckle on the wall and counting out how many times he's done it. So there's this big bloody patch on the wall, and I think he's up to 15,000 and something. Ouch! Don't know why he's doing that.
I mean, it's just to show how crazy he is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of one of the previous movies that I covered with Ben Volchok, which was Faust, which is the way that they showed a character was truly crazy was that he was drawing in blood in his cell.
Of course, nowadays we're a bit more sophisticated. We do it entirely with talking like this. And weird little pauses.
Yeah. I think now if you want to portray a character as crazy, they just have to be smoking and drinking a lot. And they listen to anachronistic music in their car.
Am I the crazy one, Lisa? Or is it society that's crazy?
Porque no los dos? David Warner says this, and I love his delivery on this. He's such a robustly dignified actor.
Yeah.
Fuck you! Fuck me? I think not.
Yeah, they really. I think the writing here is this is not a great episode of what is probably not a great show, but honestly, the characters really work with what they've got.
Oh yeah,
they're handed these garbage lines, but they fucking nail them.
Oh yeah, you got Jeffrey Combs and David Warner, two people who are princely in that field of working with the scripts they're given. Nordoff takes him to a lab of sorts. It's another grim, warehousey, morgue-looking type room, where the rehab seems to be just shocking him with a big ray gun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, some kind of electro ray gun brain torture device. Nordoff's we're going to try to rehab this guy. What do we got? What are the things we got? We can torture him for a while, and that's it. I'm out of ideas.
Yeah, it does look like the old-fashioned idea of what electroconvulsive therapy was, because I know that now it's a lot more subtle and it's actually quite useful to some people.
You don't use the big laser anymore?
Surprisingly not.
Oh,
no.
that's a shame.
No, surprisingly, you don't try to replicate what I imagine the feeling of dropping a toaster in the bath is.
Sure. And so, yeah, it turns out that trying to torture the bad out of him wasn't very effective. He's still a serial killer.
Yeah, who'd have thought? Yeah. Hey, he's not a serial killer. According to Nordoff, he just has bad wiring.
Yeah. And, the fact that he killed in cereal. But we can fix him. We can change him.
He killed in cornflakes. So back at the cell, we meet, for some reason...
He's got a cellmate.
Jeffrey Combs' character has a cellmate in Ron Perlman, 40139, biggest chin in the West.
Yeah, all the good actors had nothing on this week.
Ron Perlman has such a staggering face. He has this giant head, and I love Ron Perlman, but he is mesmerizing to look at.
Yeah, he's not a romantic lead, I think. But when you want someone with a big old chin, he's your man.
Yeah. I want him and Bruce Campbell to just like butt heads and see who wins.
Oh, Ron Perlman would destroy him.
Oh, I don't know. Bruce Campbell's wiry, but he's got a lot of moxie.
He's got moxie, but doesn't have a lot of chin. Like, Bruce Campbell has like a square, handsome human amount of chin, and then Ron Perlman is like, you have been breeding humans for 100 years to maximize the chin.
Yeah, he's a man carved out of stone.
Yeah.
Turns out that Ron Perlman's character killed a lot of people, he thinks.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I think we started to get confused by it, because it's definitely not clear what the point of the rehab is if Ron Perlman sort of kind of remembers the things he used to do, because he does say that the point of the rehab is that you don't remember.
Well, no, so Ron Perlman wasn't getting, I don't think he was getting the electroshock rehab. I think because he like reveals that they get sent somewhere or they go up or something, and Ron Perlman was a killer like Jeffrey Combs, maybe not as bad, and he went somewhere and then he killed a lot of people, and now he's rehabilitated, I guess, but he doesn't remember it. They've wiped his memory or something. And Jeffrey Combs is like, no, I'll remember it. They won't change me. It's quite confusing.
Yes.
So, and then he has like this goes on, I guess. Like, he gets tortured. He has some crazy dreams with Ron Perlman. He kills Ron Perlman.
Yes. So there's a scene in a little bit where Jeffrey Combs' character has a dream where he and Ron Perlman are trying to kill each other. And then, oh no, Ron Perlman wakes up dead.
It was quite embarrassing for the prison guards. They're like, oh yeah, I put the world's greatest murderer in with a cellmate, and now the cellmate's dead. We forgot to take the belts.
Yeah, we forgot to take the cords off their jumpers. We're just,
Doy. It seems obvious in hindsight.
Yeah, we're still getting used to this whole looking up murderers thing.
Yeah. I quite like also the futuristic prison is just a normal shitty prison, but they've got horizontal bars, which is spaced quite far apart.
Yeah. It really seems like if you were thin enough, you could just squeeze right out of it.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the electrolysis lab, which we'll call it, where
that's where they remove your hair.
Yeah. It's where they make you nice and smooth. Jeffrey Combs' character asks Nordoff why he doesn't just kill him, and that's when Nordoff explains that they no longer have capital punishment. Capital punishment is now illegal, so instead they go into exile or going up.
And Ron Perlman went to exile, and then he was cured, and then he came back. And so at this point, we're like trying to figure out what the twist is. Are we in an underground society?
Another planet.
Yeah. Are they sending people somewhere, and then it turns out that this society is the bad one, and they're sending anyway, it could go a lot of ways.
It gives you a lot of hypotheses, none of which prepare you for the actual ending. The courtrooms that they do eventually get sent to are not like any courtrooms in any world you can imagine. They're literally just
it's like
long. Yeah, this is just a long, weird, cold room.
I mean, this really gave me a Brazil vibe, especially like they had those weird Brazil like camera angles where they're super close up, or like have this like wide lens that makes the room look like long and weird.
Yeah, everything's very dark, very grim.
The judge is really loving it.
Yeah. He hasn't had to sentence someone to exile in ages. He bloody loves it.
He's using all his best material. He gets to say going, sold, which doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, he gets to hammer the gavel. He's like, oh, I've missed this.
I like to think that when they were writing this, they didn't really understand the difference between a judge and an auctioneer. They both have gavels. They both say going, sold, right?
Yeah. Very similar.
Or maybe that's just his job. After Jeffrey Combs has moved out, he's like, and next up is Vaz.
So it is revealed that Jeffrey Combs has killed 41 people.
Which is pretty solid. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's good innings for a murderer.
Yeah, I don't follow murder as much as you do, Lisa. Now, don't you laugh at me.
The concept of murder.
I know you love a bit of true crime.
I do, yes.
In comparison with like a real world murderer, 41 seems like a lot.
41 is heaps, yes.
Like, have any serial killers got 41?
Ooh, I can't think of off the top of my head because even the really big ones, the murders that they say they've done and the murders they've actually been trialed and imprisoned for are completely different. So there's some killers who they might have only been able to prove maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah, and
maybe
still
10.
bad.
Yes, it's still bad.
More than one is really a lot. It's too many.
But one of the unfortunately common habits of serial murderers is that they like to lie, and so a lot of times they'll be like, oh, actually, I've killed another 50 people and they're buried all over the country and you'll never find them.
The lying is the worst part.
Yeah, just be straight with you,
Right?
you know?
The
God.
killing I can understand. It's the lying, damn it.
But I think also a lot of things are like hyped up for the sake of the true crime stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, things like one of the names most synonymous with quote unquote serial killing is not even really considered to be a serial killer, which is Ed Gein, who he was, the basis for Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff.
Okay. I'm learning things.
He did some horrible things. So he would dig up corpses from the cemetery, make your classic human skin lampshades and having a box of ears and vulvas and nipples and things like that. Yeah, he did.
Just a serial creepy guy.
Yeah, he did grotesque things, but I think he only actually killed with his own hands 1 or 2 people.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, I would be very interested. I'd be very interested to go back and see who actually has the highest body count, because that's something I don't know. I feel like I should.
Fun reading.
Mm-hmm. So the judge sentences him to exile. Mm-hmm. He's gone.
Yeah, they failed the electro torture thing, which I guess was an unnecessary side plot.
When transferring this unparalleled murderous psychopath,
history's greatest monster,
they just leave him with one skinny guard.
Yeah.
And he's not even... Is he even handcuffed?
He's handcuffed, but he's just sitting in like a little booth with a table, and this guy brings him a coffee. He doesn't seem like a guard. This guy seems like a valet. Or something.
Or
like
just
he's
like
there to keep him comfortable.
An admin guy. Because I think he brings him like a cup of coffee, or he has a cup of coffee anyway.
Yeah, he's kind of a nerdy guy. He's kind of friendly. He's all like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, you're going to Exile? That's pretty cool. Let me tell you some exposition.
Maybe he's just a fan.
I think, he's a waiter.
You know what it looks like? The little booth they're in. It kind of looks like a private karaoke room. Yeah. Like it's kind of dark and slightly round.
Mm-hmm. It looks like the inside of a Devo helmet.
Yeah, he's not restrained or anything. He has handcuffs, but he's not like chained to the table or anything like that. So unsurprisingly, he beats the shit out of the guard and runs away.
We should have seen this coming. We are so unused to dealing with any real crime.
Yeah, the guard tells him the point of exile is to burn off your hostilities that you can re-enter society.
Which is what Ron Perlman said. That he just killed a lot and now he's better. He's like, what did he say? Like glutted with killing or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the guard ends up saying something similar to the sort of weird eugenicsy stuff that Jeffrey Combs' character was saying in the start, which is, he says, "You're a mistake of nature we can correct." So when Jeffrey Combs' character escapes, he's running around, he's trying to find a way out, and he comes across this giant window. He comes across this giant window, he looks out, and they've been on a spaceship the whole time.
What?
Oh, it's a spaceship. They're in space.
I don't actually think they've been on spaceship the whole time. I think he just got put on this spaceship to get transferred. But it is that classic moment where you're like, what? It was a twist. They were in space the whole time. Wait, that doesn't make sense.
Wait, how does that work? Doesn't matter. I like it. I'm in it.
I really think the director wanted to be like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. They were in space the whole time twist. But it's not really a twist.
M. Night Shyamalan watching, taking notes, being like, well, that's a good one. I should try that one day.
They were in Hawaii the whole time. Doesn't really work.
Turns out they were really lizard people.
Yeah.
Don't steal my idea, M. Night.
You could definitely have like a show like this, and then the end is him looking out the window just onto like a green screen, and then going, "No, what?" And then you could put anything you want there.
Yeah.
What? We were inside a fridge.
I'm gonna put the background to Mario 64.
It was the Rainbow Road the whole time.
Yeah, he looks out, really dramatic music, and it's like the Rainbow Road fading off into eternity. Oh, it's so hard. There's no barriers. You always fall off.
I'm in Centrelink.
Oh no. So Jeffrey Combs is knocked out by Nordoff. He wins again. And as he's lying there, he promises he's going to kill a lot of people. Yeah. He almost says it in like, that way when someone's doing a bad Donald Trump impression. It's like, I'm going to kill so many people. I'm going to kill people. I'm going to kill so many people. You won't even believe how many people I'm going to kill.
The best. Yeah. And we're like, we get it. You're a serial killer. This is literally the only thing we know about you.
Yep.
Yeah. And so Nordoff's like, yeah, we're going to send you down to this planet. Friggin' have fun down there. It's a shithole. Have fun being with shitty people like you.
Yep. So they decide to prepare him for his journey by giving him a cleanup. Like they.
And Combs is unconscious while they're doing this.
Yes. So they give him a shave, which is like, why would you bother doing that?
And they do a little bit more exposition.
Yeah, they do. Which is, see if you can guess where this is going.
Oh, no, leave that little bit. Just shave off the rest.
Now, Doctor, why is it that we want to shave him that way?
Because it amuses me. It's absurd.
It's like, Now, who can I think of who has a distinctive facial hair? I don't know. John Waters? Like he's got pretty distinctive, like
down to be John Waters.
He has a distinctive pencil mustache, you know.
So, at this point, I was like, okay, I'd almost guessed the twist because I was like, okay, they're gonna send him to the planet. It's obviously gonna be Earth, and Earth is full of bad people, and that's why bad things happen on Earth because they've sent all of the criminals and murderers to Earth, and we were the bad guys all along. But no, they had to take it one step further. Just one step where it's like, okay, that's just fucking dumb.
Yeah, because, and I'm sure you've seen this coming a mile away, listener, but when they pan out and we see Jeffrey Combs in his little pod heading off into space, we look in. Jeffrey Combs is wearing what looks like a generic German army uniform. He has a little mustache. He's Hitler.
He's Hitler.
He's Hitler.
He's Hitler the whole time.
Hitler klaxon.
This is where Hitler came from. This is why he's so bad. He was an alien criminal.
Yep, it's definitely a normal thing.
And then just in case you haven't got that, it then does a little montage of Nazi flags and little rallies and Hitler's face over the top.
Like someone watching being like, wait, who's he meant to be?
Oh, he's that German guy.
Oh, Hitler, that guy.
He was Earth all along and he's Hitler. And that's crazy for 2 seconds before you think any of it through.
Yeah. Well, it says that, so they do say that on Earth it's now 1927, which is another good little tip as to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which I think is...
By then you've already figured it out.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting that they didn't make it too late in Hitler's political career, I guess.
They made it a bit late. I Wikipedia'd this, and by 1927, Hitler was already a very established political figure. Basically, he'd done the beer hall putsch, he's been in jail, he's written Mein Kampf.
Yes.
By now, so... I mean, they've given Jeffrey Combs, they haven't just dropped him down, they've given him fake memories, so he thinks he's German, he thinks he's Hitler and all that shit. Okay, so this is a world where Hitler has just dropped out of a pod from space, and everyone's like, who the fuck's this guy? He's like, it's me, your friend Hitler.
But it's definitely not clear what the point of this was, because something that Dr. Nordoff says is this.
Oh, I wouldn't worry. There's just one man. How much damage could he possibly do?
If they've implanted his memories... Have they made him just a German man?
They just made him a generic German man, presumably. They haven't read the Wikipedia because it wasn't invented yet. They go, okay, it's sometime before Hitler started World War II. They've dropped him in as this generic German psychopath. Oh no, he's become Hitler. He was so much worse than we could have expected.
But is this some sort of parallel dimension where the time of Hitler and World War II and all that has already happened?
No.
Okay,
no.
because...
Because World War One was this is post World War One, but in World War One Hitler was just some soldier or something, and I guess we can say that didn't really matter. And then he kind of got politically engaged more after that, and then by the 1920 somethings, he was like in the Nazi Party, but the Nazi Party wasn't like the party.
Yeah.
So he hadn't gotten huge yet. He hadn't taken over, but he was still getting around politically, but he was still a little bit of like
he was still underground.
Yeah.
You know.
People were like, "Oh, who's this wacko?"
Yeah.
But
he was still on the independent scene, still just trying to do gigs, you know, just further his career.
So it wasn't like they dropped in like a famous person. But it's the thing that I found really weird is, okay, sure, you're sending all your criminals to Earth, but then at some point, presumably they bring them back because they brought Ron Perlman back once he killed enough people. So I guess they were hoping Hitler would go down there, do a bunch of murders, and then they'd abduct him again and he'd be reintegrated into society. And maybe you could say, okay, well, he was just so bad that he was never satisfied with the amount of murders. Whatever, that's a plot hole. The thing that I find weird is that, Jeffrey Combs was this super bad serial killer guy.
It's also really funny that he doesn't have a character name, because it does sound like we're talking about Jeffrey Combs, the actor, being a serial murderer. I really have to stress he's not. Yes. To the best of my knowledge, Jeffrey Combs, the actor, has not murdered anyone.
Yeah, if this is your first experience of fiction, it's very important to understand that these are actors, and this is all not actually happening.
Yeah, the television in your lounge room is not a portal to a different place where things are really happening.
People are not small. You'll figure it out. Yeah,
it's like if your only experience of culture was Mike TV in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's like, all TV shows are normal people shrunk down and they live in my TV.
But Jeffrey Combs is a serial killer. We'll just say that out of context. He's this super bad serial killer in a world where there's no murders. So he's a big fish in a small pond. And I'm gonna say he managed to do 40-something serial kills because no one had the defense mechanisms to track him down very, very well. They don't have a hardened homicide division.
No.
But now they've dropped him on Earth, which, as we all know, is full of murderers and bad people, and where they've been sending all of their bad people for ages. And you'd think it'd be like getting a friggin', kitten and just releasing it into the wild, and it would be immediately serial killed by something bigger. Because now he's a small fish in a big pond. But no.
What they wanted really was... They wanted a very quick and easy to understand visual representation of a bad person.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you really wanted to just put a serial killer, who are you gonna put? I mean,
he'll just go and be a serial killer.
Yeah, they look just like everybody else. Yeah, there's no easy visual representation that you can use in a 2-second shot in a TV show where you could say this person ends up being even worse, the worst person.
Oh well, I think if Jeffrey Combs did start a dodgy political party, Lisa, would you get on board?
How dodgy?
The Nazi Party.
No.
He's very charismatic. He'd be like, "Hi, Lisa, it's me, Jeffrey Combs from my famous movies. Would you like to join my political party? You had me at hi, Lisa."
I'll do anything you say, mister. I don't think I would, no, Tom. I think that my love and respect for Jeffrey Combs only knows so many limits.
That's fair. It was a trick question.
Okay.
You passed that test.
Oh, good. And then that's the end. We go back to the titty robot.
Oh, that's right.
She gives us this little outro.
I hear space travel in those prison pods can be quite a traumatic experience. A lot of men suffer from premature ejection.
So she goes back to lounging sexily on a metal lab table.
Yeah.
Looks uncomfortable. There isn't even a blanket down there. I suppose she doesn't have nerve endings.
She's a robot.
Yeah, she doesn't have muscles or anything.
She's mostly steel in all the bits that you don't want to be steel, and then she's got some skin in the midriff area and thighs, I suppose. And it's like, all right, let's leave aside the fact that this whole thing is creepy as hell. If you're gonna make a sex robot, You don't want the boobs to be the metal bit.
No.
Just any other bit, really?
You want them soft, squishy.
That's the whole point of the boobs. I don't want boobs that just play me television shows. I don't need that.
Well, then you're a fool, Tom.
It doesn't make any...
Yeah, I would argue in 1997 they probably hadn't perfected sex robots yet. Not like the glorious halcyon days we live in now of sex robots.
That's true, squishy all over, but no puns. We're still working on that.
Yeah, I wonder... Because I've seen sex robots. I've seen robots that you can interact with and have a conversation with. Have you seen anything related to how well sex robots can speak?
I mean, I'm sure it's trivial.
Have they combined the technology to make sex robots able to also speak?
Yeah. I mean, all you do there
moan
is
and wail and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, surely you just get the computer / speaker bit that does the talking and you put it on top of the sex robot bit.
I personally don't think I would get a sex robot, and so I would have to ask someone who would be interested in that whether the conversational part of it is a factor in their purchase.
I mean, that's a separate question. I don't think that any of the bloody talking robots that they've ever come up with are any good at all. They're all entirely a scam, basically.
They're creepy.
They are extremely creepy.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. Nowadays, when we talk about robots, and they're like, oh, we've got this robot that's really smart, can interact with people. And it's like, what you've got there are two separate things. You've got a computer, because that's just the brain of a robot is just a computer. You've got a computer program that can do whatever talking or things you've told it. And then you have a creepy robot head that can be operated remotely. And the two things are entirely independent. You don't need the creepy robot head to do the talking stuff. They've just got the creepy robot head there, so you've got something to have a picture of on TV.
Yeah, they want to make it seem more human.
Yeah, and have journalists be like, "Ooh, you've got this robot is going to be replacing you at your job," and you're like, "I wish, but if that was a thing, it would have happened by now, guys."
I mean, one of the worst aspects of modern technological science has been those horrible robot dogs that the police have.
Oh, I hate them so much.
Oh,
I hate them so much.
If I ever saw one of those, I mean, no matter how much they try to make it look like a dog, I will still fucking kick it over.
Yeah. I mean, the worst part isn't that it's a robot dog, it's that it's a cop. I mean, if they had those things, I don't know, taking out the garbage or something, great, cool. No, they've got to be cops or soldiers or something because, of course, every time we come up with some fucking robot technology, you're like, great, it's going to be a couple of years before that thing is bashing down the doors of minorities kind of stuff. Yeah.
The only real benefits to the ways that we've excelled in modern science and technology is to use it against people.
Primarily, that's where it starts.
Yep.
And so Boston Dynamics, who keeps making these robot dogs, when they did that at the start, everyone was like, so these are going to be cops and soldiers, right? And they're like, no, it's search and rescue.
Yeah, no, look how cute they are. They can do a little jump and a hop.
Oh, we're just doing technology. We're just seeing what we can do. It's going to be really useful. And then fucking, yeah, we've got cops using them now. And everyone's like, fucking told you so. You goddamn tech jerks. It always happens.
It's bad enough to make real dogs be cops, and now they're making robot dogs be cops.
Well, because the problem with real dogs is they have too much of a conscience. There's an inner good boy to them all.
So have you read the comic books?
Because this is based on a comic book from 1950, so they were thinking a lot about Hitler at the time. And it follows along a lot. And the comic book kind of starts when he's already on the spaceship on the way to Earth. And he's unconscious the whole time, Jeffrey Combs' character, who in the comic book is not played by Jeffrey Combs.
Boo.
But I know.
Then I don't want it.
Exactly, because Jeffrey Combs wasn't born yet. It's just the two scientists delivering exposition for 8 pages to set up this dumb twist. And it's like, oh, we've got a society that doesn't have any crime because we exile all of the criminals to this planet because it turns out crime is genetic or something, and you can't just keep them here because their kids will be evil, and I guess we can't lock them up for life. It's not explained why. And we can't just kill them because that's bad. We have to exile them to this planet. And we've been doing this for quite some time. And I think this is the twist that I was expecting. Is the entire planet is populated by these murderous exiles we've sent for thousands of years. So you keep having these murderers popping up in your population. It seems like this system hasn't been working. Because the whole point of the system is you've got them out of their population so that you've no longer got the murder gene happening, but you're still getting these murderers.
Yeah.
So
Try something else.
yeah, they're flying their spaceship to this planet, and they just hit like 3 twists in a row really hard in like the last page where they're like, what? Turns out the planet is Earth. And everyone's like, I know. And, turns out the first people we sent to this planet were Adam and Eve. What?
Oh.
And then, it turns out this guy is Hitler. Oh, how bad could it possibly be? You know?
The true cultural touchstones of humanity. Adam, Eve, Hitler.
But it makes the thing even worse. Of like, this is an entire planet of murderers with the murder gene.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler would be a drop in the bucket there.
Yep. Well, thank you for coming on this perverted journey with me, Tom Lang.
No worries.
Anything to plug?
Oh, look, I do a podcast. If you're here, you probably like podcasts. And I do a podcast that's not about Jeffrey Combs at all. So if you're here, you probably hate it. He hardly ever comes up. So our podcast is called Not Good Enough. And we do it every week. It's about like what's happening in Australia that like we look, it's not, I don't like to say it's a politics podcast, but it is a lot about politics, but it's also funny, and it's about environment and science, and it's just like, what's all the shit that's happening in Australia that we think is interesting and that you might want to know more about in a funny way, or what are we pissed off and we want you to be pissed off about as well. Yeah,
it's a great combination of comedy, because I think, most of...
We're all comedians or ex-comedians.
Yeah, or comedy adjacent.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of really funny people who are also, thankfully, incredibly smart and very, very well versed on on all the various topics. I kind of like how everyone on the podcast has their own little areas of expertise. Mm-hmm. You keep cutting to them. It's like a great little sitcom. As usual, you can follow the podcast on all the usual social channels at ReanimatesPod on Twitter and Instagram, Reanimates Podcast on Facebook if you're so inclined. We're also over on YouTube, if that's how you like to listen to podcasts, as well as the usual podcast channels and Spotify and all that. Also, come over onto Tumblr. We're having a great time over there.
If you want to keep up with the stuff I'm thinking about, I'm on Twitter at LangAround, I think is my Twitter handle. At LangAround.
I believe so.
Yeah. I'm not really a big plugger of my own stuff. I mostly figure if people find me, they find me. And if they stick around for the weird combination of board game analysis, political grumpiness, and dumb jokes, then good on them.
Well, those are my favourite things about you, Tom.
The board game analysis?
Yeah.
You lie.
No, I love it when you try to get me to play a board game. and I have a red hot go of it, even though I don't have the capacity for it.
That's true.
Played a good bird board game. What was that bird board game?
Wingspan.
Wingspan's
a great game.
Anyone who likes birds and board games, that's a fun one.
Yeah, even if you only like one of those two things.
I like birds usually.
Yeah.
I think I like birds better than board games.
I mean, that's fair.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I don't blame you. Birds are cool.